Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
If I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Well, hello everyone. You caught me shopping on Amazon. I wasn't going to do a show tonight, but I'm going to be gone for the weekend, and I figured, why not? Because there was a hot topic on the Twitters that I wanted to talk about. It's not party history. But before we do that, I haven't done my sponsorship in a while here, because I don't like to burn you out on it. And remember, my top tier sponsors do get free advertisement on my show. So if you happen to be one of those folks, send your products my way, or your shows, or whatever it is that you'd like me to promote. And yeah, my nails are super grungy. I needed to redo them. But speaking of what doesn't need to be redone, how about that segue? Here is Sean Dempsey's books. Hello, Kathy. Once I get a comment, I stick comments up. I don't like the big pink blob to be up here. I can be the only pink blob on my screen. I gotta scooch. I gotta make that pink thing a little smaller. Oh my god, there we go. That's better. All right, so we have Sean's books here. A Tale of Two Brothers. Yeah, somehow I got off center. This is really skewed. Oh, I'm going to have to make this a little smaller for right now. Okay. Tale of Two Brothers and Ava in the Storm. These are fantastic children's books. If you like, libertarian themed books, these I would definitely recommend, where they teach self-reliance and libertarian principles without being overly political, because you don't want to be overly political with kids. That is gross. All right, so let's get started. And it's not a sugar-free cotton tea. I didn't have a diet Mountain Dew, so it's just got to be the full sugar shirt. But you all know I'm a Diet Dew girl, and I wish I had a Diet Dew right now. Actually, I'm kind of thirsty. Wayne's not watching the show, but if he was watching the show, I'd be like, Wayne, Wayne, bring me a Diet Dew. All right, so what are we going to be talking about today? Let me do the YouTuber stuff first and foremost. Please subscribe. That always helps. I had a big burst of subscribers with that Blair White video I did that took off, had 326,000 views. Like, I went from like 100 to 326,000 views, but welcome. Kind of surprised people that, you know, I wasn't a pink-haired progressive, so that was the draw on that one. But if you are watching this, because you came from one of those other directions, or if you are a long-time watcher and you just haven't subscribed, because I know libertarians, you're like, I don't want to subscribe. Don't tell me what to do. I'm telling you what to do. Which is pretty ironic considering the subject of the rest of the show. I am telling you what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button, or you love the state. You don't want to love the state, do you? Okay, so you better have hit that subscribe button. And last but not least, I really appreciate your patronage on patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. Most of my subscribers do not take advantage of some of the benefits. I do a patron-only show we're going through, and I'm going to be recording another chapter of it this weekend. Things got kind of crazy this month. As Kathy will let you know, things got a little Looney Tunes. I'll be doing another chapter of Michael Malice's The Anarchist Handbook, but also for the 2 top tiers, you can get a free t-shirt a year out of my store. I'm adding new designs right now. The main one is The Kids Call Me Based, but I am going to be re-adding an Already Against the Next Mandate shirt. I was hoping that design would be retired forever, but unfortunately, Daddy State is looking to, you know, get a little something again, so that will be back up. And of course, my top tier subscribers get the t-shirt. You know, they get access to the patron-only content, and they also get advertisements on my show. Okay, that's it. All super chats matter. Let's keep it at that too. Let me get that off the screen. So we're going to be talking about a little Twitter controversy I started today. I know I never start a Twitter controversy, but before we do that, let's talk about Jaden. So Jaden, in my backyard in Colorado Springs, is a 12-year-old brave little boy who got scolded by some woke teachers for having a Gadsden flag patch on the back of his backpack. And that's what got me thinking about the whole Gadsden flag, don't tread on me, and the way libertarians are kind of rebranding it in a way that I personally don't care for and I personally find annoying. But I'm not saying you're not a good libertarian or it's anti-libertarian. I'm just going to give you my perspective on it. I didn't realize that this would be such a flashpoint, but I think it really gets to a good libertarian discussion. But Jaden has won his fight against his school. He gets to proudly wear his Gadsden flag, and I think Jaden is probably really popular amongst all the 12-year-old ladies now, and he's such an adorable little boy. So yeah, here's one of my favorite Jaden memes right there. The look on that teacher's face. Could you get any more stereotypically woke scold? Like, when I think woke scold in my head, this right here, that lady, that's exactly what I see. And that kid is just like Mega Chad. So he's just like, you know, we need to play the Snoop Dogg theme. I don't got that. You know, I don't think I've got a good theme for this kid, because most of my themes are like too adult. But anyway, yeah, I think, well, we'll just give him applause. That That kid is something. And he's stylish. Look at him with his slick back hair. So, and right after this incident happened, and I didn't want to talk too much about it because a lot of people have went into the details. We don't really need to get too much into the details, but I will note, it wasn't a public school. It was a charter school that did that. So, you know, I'm in favor of charter schools, but they are not the end-all and be-all. Abolish public schools and totally privatize schools, and, you know, the whole libertarian platform would help solve that. But one thing that had come out of this discussion is, of course, the teacher was stammering over herself as to why Jaden couldn't have the Gadsden flag on his backpack, and said it was a symbol of slavery. And as many other commentators have noted, you probably could go in there with any kind of identitarian flag and have been perfectly welcome, and you would have been the hero of the day. But Lord forbid you have a Gadsden flag. So this came up on my Twitter feed, which I reposted because I thought it was very true. And my friend Anarchist Frodo had said this image is a pretty good litmus test for politics. Do you regard this flag with respect or disgust? And I think that is really good summation, that I really do think it is a litmus test. What's your first feelings when you see that particular flag? And here's what's funny. I'm not a flag person at all. Like, I say burn all the flags. That's just how I am, and that includes the anarchist flag. That includes this flag. I'm not a flag person. I have, like, an internal aversion to flags. Like, they've just been shoved down my throat so much that I just don't like flags. But I even said to Wayne, we got a flagpole in front of our house that's been empty. Let's just get one of these Gadsden flags. In honor of Jaden, I will actually put a flag in front of my house. I actually do have an anarchist flag down here just to be obnoxious at rallies, but really I'm not much of a flag person. And we got one of the LGBT Don't Tread on Me flags that it's actually upstairs in our outreach box because we just got back from a Pride event. But anyway, I loved this meme. So I decided, you know, believe it or not, I'm gonna give you an anecdote and then we'll get into the Gadsden flag. When I hear things, I'm the type of person, I don't automatically reject them out of hand, no matter how crazy it may seem. So when I first heard, this is going to seem random and I will tie it in. When I first heard that there were serious flat earthers, that they aren't all just trolling, at least I think some of them are serious. If they're not, they are way beyond mega troll, like next universe troll. But when I first heard that there were serious flat earthers, I didn't just scoff and go, that's obviously ridiculous. You're, you know, nuttier than a squirrel's breakfast. Bye, Felicia. I actually spent way more time than I care to admit listening to them. I went to flat earth videos, and it took a long time before YouTube stopped recommending flat earth videos to me. And I watched what were considered the best flat earth YouTube channels. Now I can say I understand their point of view, and I can say with knowledge that it's wackadoodle. But I didn't just immediately go, it's wackadoodle. I go, there's enough people that seem pretty serious. Like, why do they believe this? Even if I didn't think I'd ever be convinced, I wanted to understand why. And now I understand why, and I think it's wackadoodle. But it's not a knee-jerk reaction. So when I hear weird and odd ideas, I do not reject them out of hand. I look into them. I'm very curious-minded. And since being completely red-pilled to the state of the world and realizing how brainwashed I was in my youth, I'm even far less likely to just reject something out of hand. In that respect, I'm probably a bit too open-minded. So when I heard there was a claim that the Gadsden flag, which I never associated with slavery at all, I viewed it as a Revolutionary War flag. I said, well, I'm not going to reject that claim out of hand. I'm not a flag person. I'm certainly not an expert on the Gadsden flag. Is there any merit to that claim at all? And libertarians are not going to like what I'm going to say now. It's not that that claim is completely without merit. Now, I'm ultimately going to dismiss it as being relevant, but it's going to be based upon some knowledge rather than just a knee-jerk reaction, and I'm actually going to interpret it in a different way. Now, people who want to see race and racism and everything are going to interpret it their way, but I think we need to be able to look at the facts, even if we come to a different interpretation of the facts. So, I don't need this article. This was Reason praising Jaden, and I'm glad for once Reason got it right. So, first article, though, and they're mostly from more liberal sources. The shifting symbolism of the Gadsden flag is the first article that I looked at, and this one was much more leaning towards the point of view that there's no racism connection at all. But what I found so interesting about this article, and I should have circled some quotes, but I'm going to, you can hear my birds shrieking upstairs. I'm going to try to find, the article talks about how even the EEOC had to get in and put out like a refutation that the Gadsden flag is racist and a symbol of racial harassment. And it started getting that reputation, and I'm going to say again, mostly during the Obama years when the Tea Party started getting more popular, and they really were popularizing the Gadsden flag again, and some people interpreted that as being racist against having a black president. But here's a good summary here. And this article notes that symbols change, and I think that's fair to note that symbols change, that something can mean one thing and then later mean something else. A less fair article from the Washington Post that I have that does nevertheless have some good nuggets in it, notes like the swastika. The swastika is an ancient Indian symbol, but symbols change. You know, just like nobody names anybody Baby Judas anymore, that one dude, 2,000 years ago ruined a perfectly good name for everybody. There's no new baby Benedict Arnolds. Like, one bad event can ruin something that was either positive or neutral before. So symbols can change. I hope you guys aren't hearing the bird shriek and Wayne stomping all over the floor and the water running. It's not like I'm doing a show down here or anything. But here we go. All right, so it says, in recent years, the Gadsden flag has become a favorite among Tea Party enthusiasts, Second Amendment zealots, you can tell this is from a liberal rag, really anyone who gets riled up by the idea of government overreach. It's also been appropriated to promote U.S. soccer and streetwear brands, and this reflects a deeper question, one that's actually pretty compelling. I should have brought a drink down here. Got not a literal frog in my throat, but a frog in my throat. How do we decide what the Gadsden flag or indeed any symbol really means? He says one answer involves history. The Gadsden flag is one of at least 3 kinds of flags created by independence-minded colonists in the run-up to the Revolutionary War. And that's the context that I know it in. So basically, the original symbolism was it was a symbol of rebellion. It was a symbol of rebellion against the crown. It was a symbol of rebellion in order to attain independence. And I think ultimately, that is always what it has represented, though some of the people who were rebelling might not have been rebelling for the right reasons. So as we start moving into how it had been used during the Civil War, I don't think we should associate it with the racism behind the reasons for the Civil War. And I'm not going to argue with people over the claim, was the Civil War over slavery? You can not interested. For some people, it probably wasn't, but in the declarations of the actual states, the justification was slavery. For the average person on the street, probably not. The average person on the street didn't own slaves. But to deny that the Civil War wasn't predominantly about slavery, to me, is just completely myopic. However, there was an undertone, though they were rebelling for the wrong thing, they were rebelling for evil, they were rebelling against what they felt was an overreach of the northern states. So they appropriated the Gadsden flag in the Civil War. And the Union tried, at least according to the sources given in the Washington Post, which seem pretty compelling, that the Union tried to reappropriate it back, but it had been so entrenched in the Southern imagery that they shifted to having flags with eagles grabbing rattlesnakes. And the Washington Post suggests that this is kind of the transition where the bald eagle became the symbol of America rather than the rattlesnake. Don't know if that's true. It certainly made logical sense in this article. I would need to do more research on that. But it makes a kind of horse sense. The South were the rebels, whether you think they were justified or not. Obviously, I don't think they were justified, though I do think states have the right to secede. They were seceding for the wrong reasons. They were the rebels. So obviously, appropriating a rebel symbol is going to be much more successful for them than the North. But I think it's a mistake to then associate it for what they were rebelling over rather than keeping it as an abstract symbol of rebellion against what one person or a group perceives as overreach, as infringing upon their rights, whether their rights are actually being infringed upon or not. And I think it's maintained that symbolism. But that is where there is a shred of truth. There is a shred of truth that during the Civil War, the South did utilize that symbology. But I don't think that's then fair to associate it with racism. It's just always been a symbol of rebellion against an overweening state. And that's the way I think it still is today. So that's what I think of when I see the Gadsden flag. I think it's I've had enough. No step on snake, back off, or I'm going to bite your ass. Rattle, rattle. So, giving just a bit of the history of it, I now want to get into how libertarians have appropriated it. Because, of course, this originated in the Revolutionary War. Now, I know a lot of people think the founding of this country was very, very libertarian, and in some ways it was. But it certainly wasn't libertarian in the way the Libertarian Party today is libertarian. It certainly had a spirit in it, and it certainly was a huge jump forward, and like Lockean ideas and the idea of individual rights, most certainly. But we've taken that idea even further. But we are still carrying forward the symbology of rebellion against state overreach, against an overweening state. So, the original was "Don't tread on me," with the single snake that's basically saying, you stick your foot over here, Jack, and your ass is going to get bit. I be biting your ass. That's basically it. that symbolism today is very individualistic. So I want to show you the tweet that I made that caused a little bit of controversy. It wasn't controversy in a bad way. It just, lively discussion maybe is the better way to put it. Though I do want to acknowledge right up front, which will bring these strands together, that the me back in times, in Revolutionary era times, that me was not just the individual person, it was also the colonies as a collective. But rather than disproving the point I'm ultimately going to make, I think it actually proves the point I'm ultimately going to make. So let me pull up my tweet. And I said, the saying of, quote unquote, don't tread on me is individualistic, but applied consistently entails not treading on anyone. Quote unquote, don't tread on anyone messaging, while not wrong, see above, focuses on the collective, which is not a libertarian messaging style, which is about the individual. Read the statement of principles. Individualistic messaging. That is our historic base. Straying from that is the path to outright collectivism. We should instead explain how upholding my rights entails upholding yours. Collectivist messaging does not push against the modern hive mind. And I stand by that statement. I do not think this switch, which I view as kind of an appeasement. You might get a little butthurt about that, but I'm going to tell you how I feel. I'm not calling you not libertarian. I'm not telling you to use it. I'm hoping to persuade you to stick with the original. I view it as a bit of an appeasement to the modern collectivist mindset. And I also view it as a bit of an appeasement to the accusation against libertarians that you're just selfish bastards. So rather than it being me, we go, no, but we mean everybody. But you can't mean everybody unless you start with you. So my point has been that libertarian messaging has to start with the individual. Certainly, that then radiates out to everybody. But you can't have the radiation if you don't have the uranium, if you don't have the source. And when we are doing basic libertarian messaging, I think we need to start at the source. When I'm still a Christian, but when I was a fundamentalist Christian, like, one thing that is super popular that I still don't like is what was called a seeker-sensitive church, where, you know, you win them in with baskets of puppies, and you don't tell them, you know, that God may really have some requirements on them, that there's some things maybe they can't do, that there's such a thing as sin, and things like that. You just give them all the warm fuzzies and how much God loves you and all that. And that's, everything they say is true, but it's not starting from foundational principles of the Christian faith. And what pastors then said, I believe, goes into every area of life. What you win people with is what you win them to. And if you win them with a collectivist message, that's what you've won them to, even if you didn't intend it. And people have said that don't tread on anyone is just more marketable. But do we sacrifice and shy away from something that is so core to libertarianism as individualism, as Ben Shapiro sarcastically says, atomistic individualism, which it really isn't, but it's radical individualism. I think the minute we start straying away from that, the ball of yarn starts unraveling, and that we have to start with that nucleus. Certainly, don't tread on anyone flows forth from don't tread on me. But I think you have to start with don't tread on me, and then explain the me is every me. It's don't tread on me. It's also you. You can say don't tread on me. But to just water it down, and I do think it's a watering it down when you say don't tread on anyone, because there's also an implication there that might not be immediately obvious. And in thinking about it today, I started to suss out what made me so uncomfortable about that phrase. And it wasn't just the phrase, it's the phrase when it's put on the Gadsden flag. Why? Because the Gadsden flag isn't just the words. It's also the hissy. It's also the snick. And it's one snake. It's not a bunch of snakes. It's one snake. And the one snake is asserting its individualistic right to self-defense. So when you start saying, don't tread on anyone with the snake, it seems to be implying that you have a duty to defend other people against aggression against them. Now, while I believe that's the right thing to do, you should, you have no positive right to defend anybody. There are no unassumed positive rights in libertarianism. It's only negative rights. Nobody has to defend you. The only obligation they have to you is to not aggress against you. And that is all perfectly encapsulated in the individualistic, don't tread on me. Now, do most people who see it start like thinking about it as autistic deeply as I've been over the course of today? No. But I knew there was something unsettling about it to me, and I pinpointed that's what it is. We can never shy away from the core, hyper-individualistic core of libertarianism, or we lose the soul of libertarianism. Yes, it might be more palatable to say, don't tread on anyone. But the fact is, the core of libertarianism is don't tread on me. Now, I want to read some of the comments in there where I had responded to some pushback. So it is on my Twitter wall. I will not call it X if you want to interact with it. But remember, I am going out of town first thing tomorrow, so I won't see it probably till I get back. So let me find. So some of the comments I was just able to address quickly. Like someone said, Keith Knight's podcast is called "Don't Tread on Anyone," and I responded, and. So I think the emphasis is misplaced. Someone else said individuals, and the reason I'm saying someone else rather than names, people who haven't given me their consent to plaster their name all over my YouTube channel, unless they're being terrible, I'm not going to be blasting their name. So that's why I'm saying someone. I'm not trying to be dismissive of the people. And thank you very much, Frank. So someone else said individuals should have the right of free association to join and contract with collective families, communities, businesses, churches, unions, etc. These cooperative associations are what makes society flourish into civilization. Libertarians have failed in messaging here. And I said, of course. But that doesn't mean that we throw away, don't tread on me. Because the right of free association, again, gets down to the individual. And then someone else said, are you suggesting that libertarianism does not permit teamwork? And I said, no, of course not. That's not at all what I'm suggesting. In fact, saying that it doesn't permit teamwork would be treading on me if I want to work in a team. But I might not want to work on a team. I might want to just be a selfish bastard. And guess what? That is still perfectly libertarian. And I think what's also starting to get entailed here is the parsing out between thick libertarianism and thin libertarianism. So then someone else had asked, and this starts to get more into the philosophical depths of what I want to talk about. If it were, don't tread on any individual, would that work for you? And if it does, how is the word anyone meaningfully different from individual? I don't see the collectivism angle here. And I said, No, that wouldn't work for me. The message is meant to be personal. It is centered on the person speaking, not on the abstract. And someone responded, not really feeling that position. This wording gets across the idea of the nap. You not only have no right to aggress against me, you don't have the right to aggress against anyone. And I said, why? Because they have individual rights. No one else has a duty to protect them. So, and a friend of mine had also agreed with me and said about don't tread on any individual. On work, he also said, no, the directive is wrong. Don't tread on me is basically a no trespassing sign. I own me. I am telling you to leave me alone. It's not up to me to decide what you and another individual do. Exactly. You can't get to don't tread on anyone unless you've already accepted don't tread on me. You have to start with don't tread on me. So let me see if there were any other here that I want to highlight. And then I was making it clear. One second. Yeah, I think that's basically what I had wanted to highlight on that. So again, if you love don't tread on anyone, keep using it. I'm not trying to rain on your parade. I'm not trying to take your t-shirt away. I'm just asking you to think about it. Because I spent the day thinking about it. And the fact is, you can't get to anyone without dealing with the self. And then that self propagates out into every individual self. But it's an individual right you have, not a collective right. And it also gets into the idea of what is treading, okay? Now, I know this is now starting to read a whole lot more into just a simple flag than is there, but, you know, we're getting into the weeds here. As libertarians, we can all start with the baseline that there are no unassumed positive rights. But notice I said unassumed. You can assume a positive right. And if you assume that positive right and agree to take on that obligation and someone calls upon you to fulfill that obligation, that's not treading. So again, it's very individualistic to each person. And I think we are doing libertarianism a disservice. And I think we are pandering when we go from don't tread on me to don't tread on anyone. Because don't tread on me does not deny then that that applies to everybody. I kind of said it's the all lives matter. It's kind of like the equivalent of saying all lives matter to Black Lives Matter. Okay, that's true. All lives do matter. But we're talking about Black lives right now. Don't tread on anyone. Okay, great. But libertarianism is talking about the individual. So it's just funny, the analogy that can go there. And I realize the analogy does not walk on all fours. Okay, I think that's about all I really wanted to deal with this night. I wanted to just, let me try to get that off the screen. 1 second. Here we go. Yes. Sometimes my little control panel there gets a bit too complicated for me. But I'm glad we got a little show out tonight. It's been a while since I've just done a sheer philosophy show, which I do enjoy. So I hope you all have a fantastic holiday weekend. It is the LPCO camping weekend, which is what I am off to do. Well, that was kind of like a highfalutin phrasing there. Wasn't it? So again, if you feel like becoming a patron of my show, I would truly, truly appreciate it at patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. Otherwise, probably see you on Monday, though I might be too tired. I'm not sure what time we are coming back on Monday, but over the weekend, I will record some patron-only content. Bye-bye. Have an awesome evening.
given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they want to